This episode is about my experiences living in California, aka the cultural melting pot, and how does it differ from my home country, Malaysia. Hello. Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Awesome Addiction. This is Nora speaking. First, I want to give you an update. Sorry I'm a little late on the timeline just because a lot is going on behind the scenes. I was preparing for a job interview that I was very excited about. It went really well. We'll see how it goes. Besides that, I took a weekend off to Yosemite, did a hiking trip with Roxanne and her friends. It's awesome to have a change of scenery once in a while. This is probably my first hike since the lockdown in March 2020. A year worth of exercise crammed in this one weekend. Got a few bruises on my toes, but it was fun. I thought I want to power through this episode, but whenever my mind is occupied with something else, I just can't focus. Pretty much can't talk. And my philosophy is that you should put yourself first. Take care of your own needs, because no one's going to do that for you. Once you're good, then you can do more. So this is what I did. Good luck to myself and to everyone who's looking for a job right now. I promise more life updates in the future when there's more certainties in my life. Before that, I don't know if I can keep up with weekly uploads, but I'll do my best. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the cultural differences between Malaysia and the United States. Well, more on Southern California, actually. Instead of translating it straight from the Chinese version of our podcast, I'm going to take the inspiration and tweak it a little bit. I'll incorporate some of my experience living in this foreign land. Y'all ready? Let's get started. These are little things that I find interesting. We can start with shopping malls. Most of the malls in Malaysia are multiple stories with multiple stories parking structure as well. Here in SoCal, I see the shopping malls that I'm used to seeing, but I'm also seeing a lot of strip malls. These are basically a row of shops that are one story. These shops are placed right next to each other. The parking lot is on the ground, not multi-stories. It's not one giant complex, but it's still being called a mall, a strip mall. So I find this naming system quite interesting, and it's definitely more spread out. One thing that I noticed during the pandemic is that online shopping is taking over. Malls and businesses with physical stores are facing challenges. Some of them are permanently closed. It's tough. More and more businesses are putting effort in their online presence following this social media revolution. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Speaking of sizing, I'm also fascinated by the food portion here. Large food portion. Everything here is huge. But seriously, I gained a lot of weight by just getting used to the diet here. And the food portion is almost always double the amount of what I usually had. So yeah, I'll have to get a box and bring the leftovers home. For y'all who wants to avoid tipping, have your orders to go. Or go to a fast food restaurant. You're not required to tip them. Or even better, cook your own meals. This is one essential skill I picked up during the pandemic. And by doing so, I can decide the portion size. It's a nice trick. I think people call it portion control. There you go. And when we talk about food, it's impossible to dismiss the tipping culture. In the Chinese version of this episode, the American tipping culture has gotten a lot of resonance. People don't like tipping. But from a broader sense, I actually respect how cleverly this reward system was designed. Restaurant is considered service industry, right? The better service you provide, the more you earn that extra incentives. I think it's fair. Remember I had my first part-time job as a waitress? The pay was low, but the good news is I was generally tipped 10 to 50 Malaysia dollars per day. Having that extra incentives is great. So yeah, I gotta keep the energy high. If the service was bad, you're not obligated to tip them. As an alternative, try placing to-go orders or go to fast food chains. Another thing I found fascinating is that most Americans drive or have a car. When I was really young, I thought I wanted to be a boss because I want to be able to hire a driver to drive me around. Being a driver is a huge responsibility. I'm responsible for all my passengers' safety. But then, good news, now we have Tesla, and I'm most excited for the full self-driving feature coming up. Can't wait to ride in a vehicle with full autopilot mode. That way I can save my commute time and spend that time elsewhere, such as napping, reading a book, or playing games. Isn't that awesome? Back in Asia, I often take buses and trains to move around, especially so for long distance traveling. But the first time I came to America, I landed at the SFO airport. Within the first hour, I realized I need a car. Public transportation in San Jose and Los Angeles County really isn't the best in the world. Taking a bus from point A to point B could take me 50 minutes to an hour. But if I'm driving, it's about 15 to 20 minutes. So yeah, it's about 3 times the difference. If you need to move around quite a bit, you'll understand how painful this is in the long term. And so that's why most Americans I met here in Northern and Southern California prefer driving or take an Uber. There's another interesting observation about driving in general. There's a thing called speed limit. But from my driving instructor and the California Driver's Handbook, I found out that the most exemplary way of driving is to go with the flow. If the traffic is going fast, you gotta be traveling around the same speed as well. If you're going too slow on the freeway or highway, this is considered a dangerous behavior. You could get a citation for driving too slow. This is mind-blowing to me. So, can anyone tell me why does speed limit signage exist? From my understanding, the number serves as a reference point, but we gotta be flexible and, most importantly, go with the flow. If I decide to drive slow, I'll stay on the slow lane. Don't want to block the traffic. In the US of A, we use miles instead of km, kilometers. The fastest I drove in Malaysia's highway was 90 kilometers per hour, which is equivalent to 55 miles per hour. Whereas if I'm driving on a highway here in LA, for example, my speed averages to 70 to 80 miles per hour, which is like 110 to 130 kilometers per hour. But I usually drive slow whenever I can, especially on the street. I drive a Mini Cooper S manual transmission. I bought it used, it's an old car, but it gets me from point A to point B. It's also easier to find street parking since my car is not huge in size. I saw a lot of pickup trucks on the road, it's awesome when you need to haul big pieces of furniture, but when you need to fit it into a small space on street parking, it's pretty challenging. Besides these things that I found fascinating, there's some stuff that I found relatable too. This is what makes California feels like home to me. The cultural background and diversity. Just like the US, Malaysia prides itself for having multicultural, multi-ethnicity, and multilingual society. My ancestors came from the southern part of China many years ago, like 100 years ago. That was before my country declared independence. So yeah, I was born and raised as a Malaysian. Growing up in Malaysia means I had to juggle between 3 languages, Malay, English, and Chinese. And so it's hard for me to focus on one language and be really good at it. In primary and secondary schools, we had to learn different subjects in different languages. Quite frustrating. I think most subjects were taught in our national language, which is Malay. Subjects like science and math were taught in English. Then we have 1 or 2 classes in Chinese. Yeah, right, it's complicated. It's a shame I had trouble understanding things in Malay. So for some subjects, I just memorized the answer without knowing what it means. In comparison, studying in the States is easier because it uses one main language of instruction. It is straightforward. Both San Francisco Bay Area and LA have diverse population. It is known as cultural melting pot. People came from all around the world and a part of them stayed. Unique cultures are being formed and shaped. Very interesting indeed. The rich diversity also comes with a lot of celebrations. There are a lot of holidays such as Christmas, Independence Day, or in the US we call it 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day, Thanksgiving, Martin Luther King Day, Cinco de Mayo, St. Patrick's Day. Some of these are named after an important people or event to honor their contributions. Businesses usually take advantage of these opportunities and offer discounts or special promotion related to the special day. For example, they may release a Mother's Day limited edition package prior to the actual Mother's Day. My personal favorite is the Black Friday sale. Great time to pick up some consumer electronics product. Both California and Malaysia have great weather. Malaysia is a tropical country, more like hot and humid. There's no four seasons. There are only sunny days or rainy days. California is cool and dry. Nice condition to live in. It's sunny almost all year long, except for winter. There's amazing beaches and beautiful sunset in LA. But cold seawater is not very friendly, at least to me. Seawater in Malaysia is pretty warm. In my opinion, awesomer than ice cold water. Malaysian pride. Another thing that made me feel welcome is the friendly faces. The way people welcome me into their inclusive community really made me feel like home. I actually feel safe speaking English here. Knowing that I'm a foreigner, people are generally impressed that I can communicate with fluent English. Whenever I make mistakes, I take it as an opportunity to learn. A lot of Americans are immigrants too. I also met a lot of first-generation Americans. What that means is that they were born and raised here in the US, but their parents are immigrants. I usually click with this community. I also enjoy some random conversations in my daily lives. During pre-COVID era, there were times when I stand in line, queuing up for food and drinks, or if I was attending some events on my own. These are the times when random conversations happen. Recently, I went to this burrito place near my apartment. I was waiting patiently at the corner to pick up my order. Then, the firefighters came in and ordered lunch. I overheard one of them said he got 911 on his receipt. He wanted to pay for his colleague's lunch. Later, we had a small chat when he's waiting for his colleagues to order. He mentioned it's a tradition to pay for the team if anyone get 911 or the fire station number on the receipt. I thought that was such a cute little fun fact, so I'm sharing it with you. Overall, being exposed to all of these different experiences, I became more proud of my Asian roots and cultures. I was still relatively shy when people ask, what's fun about Malaysia? From my point of view, it definitely isn't the sexiest, fanciest place on earth, but it's a great place to settle down and live life. It's laid back, it's warm, it's sunny. It's my happy place. I miss seeing those friendly faces, and I miss being able to chat in multiple languages. Okay, I think this is a good ending note right here. Thanks again for checking us out. Feel free to leave us a message on Instagram at Awesome Addiction. If you prefer YouTube, just search Awesome Addiction by Nora Lim, and you'll see our logo popping up. Subscribe for more awesomeness. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.